So imagine a helicopter full of cash flying around and bringing that cash, a lot of amount of cash belonging to cartels, to the company's premises or to people close to the company, to their senior executives, so that the company pays bribes to win contracts, to buy policymakers, to buy lawmakers. Now, this is not another Netflix movie, although this has all the chances of becoming next Netflix movie. This is a corruption case with respect to a company concerning a company called Millicom. This is a multi-billion US dollar company. Millicom, and I repeat, a multi-billion US dollar company. So it appears that Millicom had a joint venture in Guatemala, and the company's name is Comcel, or Tigo Guatemala as it's more well known. And through this JV, basically Millicom implements its business activities all across Latin America, including in Guatemala. But it appears that Millicom, through this JV, essentially Millicom's top executives in Comcel were paying bribes to government officials. And the bribes paid were flown by helicopters, they belonged to drug cartels, and essentially they were paying these bribes to win contracts, and also to buy laws, and to do all those things which normally should not be done. Now, quite interestingly, in 2015, Millicom discloses this case to the Department of Justice of the United States of America, but the DOJ declines to prosecute because they find nothing. They can't substantiate this case. But in 2021, the Department of Justice reopens this case, relooks at this case, and concludes that, well, actually, there are elements of bribery here. Now, interestingly, in this case, one of the helicopters that we were just talking about, which was flying around with full of cash, bribery cash, essentially bribes, they had to land on an emergency basis on one of the military bases in Guatemala, and the personnel of the military base actually reported to the authorities about this helicopter with a lot of cash. So presumably that also helped in identifying this case, but a lot of wrongdoings and a lot of matters happened here which are against the US legislation. And essentially the Department of Justice concluded that, hey, look, this is a bribery case, this is a bribing foreign government officials by giving them something of advantage, of value, which is in the form of cash, to win contracts, basically to induce the government officials to act or refrain from their official duties and to gain advantage. And so essentially Millicom the settlement amount is $118 million. And Millicom also entered into a deferred prosecution agreement with the Department of Justice for 2 years. Now, normally that would be for 3 years, but here Millicom has cooperated and is really willing to share whatever it knows about the case, so that and this was the Department of Justice has given credit to all this. Now, quite an interesting case, lots of learnings here, but essentially one of the things here is how they were managing. One of the issues here is how Millicom was managing its joint venture relationships by having a stake in it, essentially. And one of the other things is the senior executives. So they were involved at Tigo Guatemala and Comcel. They were involved in all these bribery schemes, and it's just crazy. The amount of bribery paid here is just it's huge. And another angle here in this case is that there has been a lot of skepticism, especially after June this year, when the revised FCPA guidelines were issued, that the Trump administration will not be enforcing any FCPA cases, will not be having any FCPA cases. Well, that just turned to be wrong and not true. And we have always been a bit cautious with such statements. So it appears that actually there are FCPA cases. This is the second case actually after the revised guidelines this year. And yeah, so this case just proves that the Trump administration will probably continue with FCPA enforcement. Lots of learnings, quite an interesting case, lots of cash paid, and clearly this is a breach of the US legislation, and it has basically been concluded as part of the settlement with the US Department of Justice.